YouTube, what's up, man? It's your boy Richardson from Millionaire to Millionaire, and today I want to bring you guys a video expanding upon what I made in my last video, which is why I choose to use debit card and cash over credit card. But first, if you're new here, welcome, and if you've been here, welcome back. So let's get straight to it. The reason why I use cash and debit card is for two primary reasons. The first reason is that I touched upon it in the last video. I have almost a disdain for debt. I do not want to play the debt game, and by extension that would mean I'm not using credit cards to play into the credit card game. And the second reason is more so just the psychological, really challenging the common culture around debt and stuff like that, which you could argue ties to the first point, but I wanted to make it two different points. So first, the idea of just not wanting to play the debt game in the debt system. See, with credit cards, it's a very well marketed product for a reason, right? It's debt, right? It's the idea of, hey, if you can't afford something, don't worry, just here's your, just apply with us. We'll give you this card. We'll front your purchase, and you could just pretty much get whatever you want. But in my opinion, I feel like what this does, right, the financial aspect of it is that it kind of delays your whole budget. Think about it. When you use a credit card and you swipe for a purchase, no money's leaving your account or no money's leaving your wallet. So what happens is that you're able to get what you want initially, but you're not spending anything or nothing's coming out of your account. So what this then does is that next month, because usually it's like the billing cycle is like, I think like 28 to 30 days. And then you have like 21 to 22 days from the billing cycle end, and then they'll send you the statement, right? So you have roughly like a little bit over a month from when you made that purchase to when you're about to pay for it, right? Because you have to pay them back. And what this does is that it creates this like, imbalance, or this delay in your budget, because you think you could afford something. Like, let's say you were to buy like a $1,200 Samsung TV, and you buy it now because you have the credit line for it. But then next month when you have to pay for it, you're like, crap, well, I have all my other bills and stuff that I have to pay for, plus this $1,200 Samsung TV. And ideally, the way you use credit cards is that you'll spend the credit, you'll pay off the total statement balance in full by the due date, so that you don't owe an interest. Because the moment you don't pay the full balance, or you pay the minimum, or you pay less than the statement balance, that's when interest comes in, and then that's when the whole equation from a mathematical and financial standpoint just no longer makes any sense. So that's one aspect of the debt. The second aspect of the debt is the idea with the points and the rewards and the credit cards. Now, I would be a hypocrite and a liar if I told you that I didn't take advantage of those points and credit cards. I probably amassed, I think I've been part of the credit card game for roughly 9 years, and I've probably amassed thousands of dollars worth of rewards and cash back through that span, just with my spending. So I would be a liar to say that I don't miss that aspect, or that aspect is not cool. But you have to think about it from a perspective of, why are they offering me these rewards? Why are they willing to give me 2% back on my spend? Why are they willing to give me 4 points per dollar in Amex points to spend on, when I use this card? Why do you think they do this? They do this because psychologically, they know you're going to spend more money, right? And the more money you spend, the more they make money, not only on the interchange fees, which every time, in case you didn't know, every time you swipe a credit card, or every time you run your card through a terminal, behind the scenes, right, in that few seconds when you wait to get that approval sign on the terminal and you essentially pay for the purchase, what ends up happening is that the credit card processor, right, and the issuer, they charge the merchant, right, the person you're buying the stuff from, they charge them an interchange fee. So interchange fees on credit cards, at least in the US, I don't know how it is around the world, but in the US, they are typically higher than in debit cards, right? Effectively meaning that merchants will have to pay more when you swipe a credit card than you are with a debit card. Now, what a lot of merchants end up doing is that they just pass that cost on to you, either in terms of a credit card processing fee, meaning if you go to some small businesses, they'll say, hey, if you whip out a credit card, just know what you're paying a 3% fee or something to that effect, or they'll just raise the baseline price of all their goods and services to accommodate for it. So the merchants are paying for it, but not really. You're really paying for it. But the point I'm trying to get in all this is that the more you spend, the more chances that they could make off the interchange fees. But there's a second way they also make money off is, like I touched upon with the first part, is that if you do not pay your full statement balance by the due date, you will get charged interest. And anyone knows that credit card interest ranges anywhere between like 25 to 30%, depending on the type of credit card. So, I mean, being tacked that on to the remaining of your balance, plus any future purchases you're going to put, you could see why the average American, I believe, I've read an article that the median credit card household credit card debt, that the median average, the average household income household have in America in terms of credit card debt is roughly $7,000. Oh, that's tongue tied. I'm not gonna edit it out. So, yeah, about $7,000, and you could understand why, because it just becomes a compounding effect. But compounding against you, not compounding working for you, and we'll touch upon that in a future video once we start talking about investing, which we will soon. And again, it's just for me, it's like, why would I even want to engage in any of that when I have the money? Which we'll tackle upon the second aspect, which is with credit cards. I want to kind of go against the culture in regards to the mindset that you should use other people's money and that you should use debt, over your own money. It's not until just recently, like a couple months ago, maybe a little bit over a year ago, when I got rid of my credit cards, that I became to realize that mindset, although I understand why people are coming from this, and we live in a society where it's circulated around debt, so of course debt is going to be talked about, debt's going to be shown and preached to the masses. But I've realized that, well, apart from the idea of using other people's money instead of my own, the question becomes is, why would I use anyone's other money when I have my own money, right? Like, why would I involve a third party or another person in my financial decisions, especially with my purchases, when I have the money? If I have the money, I'd rather just deal with the merchant or the person I'm buying the goods and service from directly, take care of that, and then just move around with it, right? Like, I just don't understand the idea of, hey, let's intentionally involve a middleman because I don't want to spend my money. And if that's really the case, then the question is, why would you want to build wealth in the first place if you're never going to use your own money? You're just going to have somebody fronting you, right? When I'm thinking about it, the more and more I think about it, it kind of just doesn't make sense. And I mean, that goes into why, personally, I just see that with cash and debit cards, because I'm spending my money and I'm not involving a third party in there. I just find that I have a lot more control, a lot more freedom with my cash. Now, obviously, not using credit cards does come with its detriments, right? The first one is that, like I mentioned earlier with credit cards, sometimes the credit cards could provide you some form of cover, right? Because let's say you need to buy, let's use the analogy I used earlier, the $1,200 Samsung TV. Let's say you absolutely need to buy it, which, I mean, what would be the necessity? I mean, listen, everyone got their reasons. But you buy a $1,200 Samsung TV, and you don't have the money, but you know you're going to get paid. You know you're going to have like 2 or 3 paychecks before you have to pay it, because again, it's about 28 days from the billing cycle and then another 21, 22 days. So you literally have like a month and a half from when you make that purchase, and you know you're going to pay it back, then that's fine. Another thing is that with credit cards, when it comes to like certain activities or certain things that you spend money on, like let's say when you go to like a hotel, they typically will charge you a smaller incidental when you use a credit card than a debit card, because with the credit card, as long as you have the credit limit, you're good. Whereas with the debit card, they have to make sure that, hey, you have the money there. But as I mentioned in the last video, it still can be done. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier in this video, the points and the credit cards and the cash back, right? And it's like, you're missing out when you're using a debit card. Some debit cards do have cash back. That's what I've learned a couple months ago, but they're not as lucrative or not as rewarding as it would be with the credit card, which makes sense because, again, credit cards have more potential profits for the issuers. In other words, the bank that issued the credit card, there's more money to be made, so they're more willing to give you more to get you to spend more, right? That's just kind of how it is. And and lastly, again, I'll just touch upon what I said in the last video as well. I know I keep saying that, but my last video I talk about debt, so it kind of gives you my mindset, is that I'm looking at things from a Christian biblical worldview. And as I mentioned earlier, in the book of Proverbs, which is in the Bible, chapter 22, verse 7, it says that the rich rule over the poor and the borrower is slave to the lender. And I think to myself, it's like, well, back then when I was engaged in credit cards, I was just swiping it up, getting this, getting that, third, blah, 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 get the points, all that. But now I'm thinking about it, it's like, why am I being a slave? Like, what am I actually getting that's substantial and meaningful for me being a slave? Because back in the biblical days, when you were a slave, it was because you couldn't afford stuff, right? Let's say, you and your family needed, food and livestock and crops and fruits for the winter to hunker down and get something to eat, and you didn't have that. Then you were like, hey, in exchange for you bartering with me and giving me some livestock and crops and fruits and stuff like that, I will willingly be your slave for a particular point in time, either until I could actually pay it back off, or I could trade my time and my labor for it, right? So it was, you were a slave. It was literal in the sense. So I was thinking to myself, what is there a reason for me to be a slave for? Nothing. It's like, if I want to buy a $1,200 Samsung TV, I'll just save up the money and buy a $1,200 Samsung TV, right? And if I can't afford it, then that's what it is. I can't afford it. And it goes down to another verse of the Bible. I forget what it was. I think it was Jesus I was talking about it. It's in regards to building your house on foundation. And if you didn't know, Jesus usually talked in parables and used analogies and stuff to really emphasize his point. But it's like building your rock on solid foundation, so that when the storms and the weather would come, your house would not tumble, versus building your house on stand where, high tides and hurricanes and weathers come in. And because the foundation is not firm, it just levels out. And similar to my idea of being debt free, when I'm debt free and I'm using my own money, my own cash, I'm building myself on solid foundation. Now, yes, it's less convenient. And I mentioned earlier in the last video that credit is convenience and it has its purpose. And I'm not saying credit is inherently evil or being in debt is a sin in itself. It's not. But what I'm saying is that I rather take the extra time, be a little more patient, and build it on solid foundation. In other words, use my own money to get the things I want, or to invest, or to do whatever, than engaging in debt. Yes, I could probably get where I need to go faster, but then if things go wrong, the fall or the decline also happens faster. And then the last point I just wanted to establish is that on psychology, I know I'm just kind of throwing out there, I don't script my videos, but just kind of ramble on, so pardon me for that. But the last point I want to touch upon is that when you use plastic versus cash, when you use plastic, psychologically, right, I think there were studies done that you tend to spend about 12 to 18% more using plastic, and that includes debit cards, because debit cards are plastic, versus when you use cash. And that's because when you use cash, there's a portion of your brain, I think it's like the pain receptors of your brain. It feels pain when you give up cash or you give up something physical to get something, right? Again, using like in the old biblical times when people would barter, right? They would barter like crops. You would feel it because, hey, I'm giving up crops to get this young calf, or to get this young goat, or to get, whatever animal, a couple chickens, right? You were giving up something to get something. It meant something. And you had a lot more value, not only on the trade, but you had a lot more value. You appreciate the value more of what you received because you know what you gave up. When you use credit cards, let's say you go to a restaurant and you're eating out with your friends and family, you don't really notice anything because you give up your credit card. They come in, the server comes, tap it, blah, blah, or they take your card to the back, they ring up the charge, give you the receipt, you sign it, and that's it. The only way you would know is that if you actively pay attention to the receipt or you actively potentially pay attention to the bill, then you'll realize and you'll know that, oh, wow, I spent, $70 at the bar with a couple of drinks and, little couple appetizers and like some drinks, versus when you use cash, because you have to, okay, your bill's $73. Okay, you have to actually, okay, here's a 50, here's a 20, okay, here's three singles and, some change if it is. Like you actually have to give them something and you don't get that back. And you actually feel like, oh my goodness, I spent $73 at a bar, and it's going to make you reconsider, what am I even spending? What am I even getting for that $73? And again, this is not supposed to be a generalization. I understand there's some people that are very meticulous with their spending with using credit cards. And if that's you, that's great. God bless you. You have a level of strength and restraint that, a lot of people that have credit cards don't have. And again, it's a good thing. But in general, just the psychology, it does tend to favor people that use cash than plastic when it comes to controlling your spending because of that. So that's why I use cash and debit. The reason why I say cash and debit hybrid is that obviously we live in a digital world. It's 2025. There's certain things that you're not going to be able to do solely on cash, right? Like if you want to book a ticket on the airlines, there's no way you're going to be able to do it in cash. You're going to have to use a debit card. You want to book a hotel. Most hotels, at least in the United States, they're going to need a card on file, et cetera, et cetera. So there's just certain things you can't get out. You're going to need plastic, and that's where the debit card comes in. But vast majority of things, I am primarily using cash, and I feel a lot better. And the rewards and cash back that I'm losing out by not going with the credit cards, in my opinion, the spending, me spending less. Oh, sorry guys, I'm very bad pronunciation and grammar, so forgive me. But the least amount of spending is more than the amount of cash back and rewards that I'm getting, if that makes any sense. So I'm getting a little hot. I'm about to go inside, about to go get something to eat. I'm getting a little hot. I'm toasting my car. And in the future, I think I might try to get like a tripod so I can make videos like at my house or, somewhere where it's not just in my car. I'm being toasted in the Florida heat. So that's my reasons of having, using cash and debit versus credit cards. I understand there may be some people that disagree with it. If that's you, let me know in the comment section down below. And thank you guys for tuning in. More videos will come out. Again, I'm committed to that 2 video a week threshold. So, enjoy the video. If you like it, subscribe. If you haven't already, like the video, share it to a friend that may have a similar opinion, or just people that have contrasting opinions, and maybe being able to just hear things, because on the financial YouTube, you just hear, use other people's money, use other people's money. You don't really get a lot of people that are telling you, hey, well, if you have the money, why do you want to use someone else's money? So thank you guys. It's Richardson from Minimum Wage to Millionaire. Thank you guys for watching. God bless all you guys. Have a nice day.